The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome to Old Space Show. I'm Brandon, and this is my brand new companion, Russell McGee.
Hello.
Hello.
To hear everybody, well, yes, you'll hear us.
Oh, this series of Old Space Show follows the simiantastic adventures of Galen and his two astronaut pals as they wade their way through the futuristic Earth in the short-lived television version of Planet of the Apes. Russell.
Apes.
Apes. Welcome to Old Space Show, Russell. You have been on long ago, and normally you and I have talked to Doctor Who stuff or classic horror stuff, but we're both Apes fans in here. For people who don't know, we're just because I have people that listen to Old Space Show and nothing else. I don't know why, but thanks for any listen.
Okay.
Russell, you work at the network down at IU in Bloomington, and also you are audio engineer, Big Finish. We love stories.
I am. I do the sound designs on the Gallifrey Time War series and getting ready to do Gallifrey War Room, which was just finally announced. So I can talk about that now.
There you go. Yes.
So yeah. I've been working with them for 8 years now, and I think I've lost count. It's definitely over 16 stories with just the Time War alone. So just a few Doctor Who things.
A few private hellos from classic Doctor Who cast members and your recording sometimes.
And what Brandon's alluding to there is Nick Briggs has even, like, as the dialect gone over and said, "Hello, Russell," and in the dialect voice, which kind of freaked me out at the time when that happened. So, but it's fantastic too to have those little moments.
Yep, and your work is fantastic on it. Everything else too. I've heard you even like your other productions. You do a lot of with audio drama just beyond the Doctor Who. You do stuff at university and just all over. Like your like I always say, your Frankenstein is fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed that. You've also done like live productions like Ed Wood the musical, things like that. So,
and what now? Year before last, we also released the Ernie Pyle Experiment for WFIU, which was a 13-episode full drama series that we produced there, and that ended up getting a Audie nomination, which is kind of the Oscar equivalent in the audio world, and so that was huge. And first time out of the gate submitting there, and we got a nomination, which was really cool.
Awesome, yeah. And I appreciate you coming here for Planet of the Apes, which you strongly lent your hand here because this is the first time we're doing an Old Space Show that was by request of a listener. So someone shout out, and Russell's like, "You do Planet of the Apes, I am coming on for that." And I was like, well,
totally there for it.
Sweet, because that makes my life easier, and I'm glad to have Russell back here on the show, especially for 14 episodes straight. So it's pretty awesome to have. So Planet of the Apes. I am a huge Planet of the Apes fan. I have been since I was a kid. Strong franchise for me. It was I always remember what happened. It was like a New Year's Eve or something, and my mom and dad used to take us to rent movies, and for my sister to stay in the basement, watch them till midnight or whatever. And they maybe had friends over or did something else. And one year she took us to the grocery store. It was called Scott's, and they didn't have the best selection or whatever. And I'm struggling. And my mom just grabbed the Apes. Is like, "Here, watch this. Show her that. You like Star Wars. You like, that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And lo and behold, The movie was awesome. Mom had a great recommendation, and I found out she was really big. Like, she grew up in, the 70s were her teen years. So like the Apes were like one of the few like franchises. Like you had James Bond, Hammer, and like Planet of the Apes. Like that was, I mean, it wasn't like today. But those were an ongoing thing. And I found, luckily, shortly after that, I think I don't know. I found the sequels through the Sci-Fi Channel would run. And it was great because they would have Roddy McDowall host it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like he'd be like, "Oh, Planet of the Apes on Sci-Fi," because they would have cool hosts. They like Rob Zombie would host their October Horrors months. The Roddy McDowall hosted Planet of the Apes, and so I've taped them all off there. So I had the whole series on taped VHS, and the TV show aired on Sci-Fi Channel as well, and that's where I first watched it. I then caught up again with it in college, and then not till now have I revisited it again.
I was going to say, like, I didn't get to see it on its initial airing, but I did see it in reruns in the 80s. And that was one of those moments for me where my dad actually, kind of like with your mom, would expose me to different sci-fi and horror things. And the big thing for us was Friday nights. We would watch Sammy Terry.
Oh, okay.
So for the Indiana listeners, that is our local horror host, and he's still ongoing now. But my dad and I would stay up late, and one of the shows that they were doing in reruns was the Planet of the Apes TV series. And I had seen the films by that point, but like that was a special moment that we shared, and actually just staying up late and him letting me be up past my bedtime to watch the Apes.
Exactly. And these are just, I don't know. It's crazy how well these, I'm going to have to, watching the show for this is going to be a rediscovery for me, as well as much as I tout being this Apes fan, the TV show is a weak point of mine in terms of memory or revisiting a lot. But it's amazing for me how well the original films have held up over time. Like, such good, strong writing. Yes. Some people, there may be some goofy factor here, but there's a really good like, I'll even go to bat for a lot of Battle for the Planet of the Apes. I think the problem with that's a budget more than it is the story or anything going wrong. But I've really, like, I remember the original blew my mind. Like, they all like just kept going. Like, even like through Conquest, that one was like, what? And the ending of that movie was like, what? That was like my favorite Apes film for the longest time, because I was like, holy crap.
We would not have the Caesar series that we do now today without those films too, because and they kept reinventing themselves as the series went on. Yeah. And they did a really good job with continuity as well, like across the board. I mean, yes, like you said, there's some goofy things, but they did keep it consistent. Yeah. And I'd say like the only time they whiffed at bat truly was the Tim Burton one. And you can't say that one wasn't without trying. Like, it was an expensive film, and it looks expensive. Just didn't quite do it. The art direction's amazing, but no.
But that is one of the few, and friend of the show, Scott Mendelson, will tell you, it's one of the few times a studio actually called it at the table, took their chips and ran home, and didn't make a sequel to it. Like, that movie made a lot of money, but they knew people weren't going to show up again, and they wouldn't do that nowadays. They'd be like, well, money, push it out there, don't care, don't listen, whatever. But that movie actually made some money, was big. It wasn't a huge hit, but they were like, cash your chips in, we're going home. It's a rarity that happened. But
and I know we actually I haven't asked you about this, and I know we're obviously talking about the TV show, but did you know there was a cartoon as well?
Yes, The Return of the Planet of the Apes. Yeah. Yep.
Have you watched any of those?
I have watched those.
Okay. Those are a little bit more of a slog to get through. Yeah.
I mean, it's in the vein of, like, if you can make it through the Star Trek animated season, those you can make it through the Planet of the Apes one. But be warned, it's up that alley. But that's what cartoons were a lot of times back then. So there's that cartoon series. I haven't revisited that one in a while. I do remember discovering it. I think I had it. I got it like Amoeba when I lived in LA or whatever. But that's an interesting oddity as well. But Apes has always been a property that has interest, that always, they don't overexpose us to it. It comes and goes, but when it comes, it's a big deal. And I do remember somewhere in the 90s, like Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to be doing a Planet of the Apes movie, but
did not hear about that one.
He had been pushing that for a long time, and then it became a Tim Burton thing. But yeah, he's done that. But this TV show we have here, it comes like the year after Battle for the Planet of the Apes, right? I think it was 73
so.
And this was 74.
Yeah, I'm looking because I don't remember right off as well. I know that they say that it's 10 years after the events of the film in the actual episode, so that might help. But,
gotcha.
I do not see right off 74. So 68 and then 74.
Okay. Yeah, because they what happened, like they were planning on doing this show or something, and then they ran the first 3 movies as like on TV again to see what the interest was, and they rated really high.
Right.
Planet, Beneath, and Escape, and so they're like, okay, we could do this TV show thing, and Roddy McDowall comes back for it, which
right.
Hey, king of the series, because wow, you'd think he,
No, and like also from a practical standpoint, and we didn't touch on this, but like just early on, they almost closed down part of Hollywood because of like pulling all the makeup effects people in to be able to do this with the first film and then streamlining things. And I think because I just watched a promo for the TV show, they said that it still would take them 40 hours per person to be able to do the makeup effects on them, to like do a cast and then be able to, get it to the point where they would be ready to actually be on TV. So once they have that mold made.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, in terms of the apes and effects for this series, it's more akin to Battle than it is the rest of the series, where there's time, there's not as much bloody, it's people in masks. So that's but there are some of them, they get pretty good. Some of them are just shaking. That's I'm talking, I guess. But I've always loved the look and design. I don't care how it's still impressive to me. It's still magical to me to watch these, even the cheapest ones. I don't know why. Probably a bit of nostalgia, but I think I like that look of these apes.
No, and like even as you're talking about the detail, like I was looking at that as I was revisiting these, and Galen, which is Roddy McDowall's character here, even the gloves that he had, like the detail on the hands, the fingernails and everything else, like because you have some close-ups and I'm like, okay, that still stands up pretty well.
Yeah. And they I will say before, not getting into the episode so far, but they don't heavily rely on using stock footage from the films, which is nice. No. They could have, which some other shows based off movies have heavily done that in the past. This series, though, one of the funny things is it beat out another science fiction icons attempt at a show for this fall 1974 season. Gene Roddenberry had a high-profile Genesis 2 was his high-profile thing during a pilot season, and CBS is like, we're only taking one sci-fi show, and this is it. Which Genesis 2, he had 2 shots at Genesis 2. He'd come back with another shot later, and they both end up being TV movies down the road. I can't remember if the first one had John Saxon. No, the second one had John Saxon. I was
going to say, I knew they changed the lead actor in between the 2 TV movies, but yeah.
But that's an interesting little oddity about a man who gets frozen and wakes up in the future or whatever. They both play like pilots, so they're not really interesting enough as movies. They don't feel conclusive by the ends. But he would get another shot. Like Genesis 2 was a pet project for him. And Russell, about this with Apes in particular in production. Rod Serling wrote the first 2 episodes originally. They didn't go with them, but do you want to give us some details about his early attempts?
Yeah, and we were talking about this even a little bit before we started recording. There's even elements going back to his very first film script, and the reason I'm going back to that is he actually took the TV episodes they wrote and had them where they directly followed on what he wrote in his original film adaptation, which isn't what we ended up seeing on the screen. And I bring that up because there's the whole thing as far as how the Ape City was more like in line with a modern New York City and seeing apes in suits and things like that. And there was actually a comic adaptation that they did recently, Planet of the Apes Visionaries, where they did adapt his original script.
I love when they do that stuff. Yeah.
So we got to see what he was intending originally. And but then getting to the actual like TV episodes, it's interesting because the first one is still like we get 3 retellings of like how like we have an astronaut coming from the past into the future and making that discovery that they're in the world of the apes. The thing that he did differently in his script that didn't end up on screen with the TV show is he echoed what he did with the original film and had it where Taylor was shot by the apes in the film. Well, in the TV script that he wrote, Galen, which is the Roddy McDowell ape, ends up getting shot by the 2 lead characters and then brought into the spaceship. And then they don't know that he is actually intelligent. Oh. And so there's this whole thing, like it's a flip on what he did with the original script, to the point as they go off exploring for a little bit, they let him go and he doesn't leave and he rips off the bandage, and same thing that Taylor did. He writes in blood on the spaceship, "I can speak," and it's washed off with rain. And that's part of like his original script that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So like he did like play in reversal as far as what he had written with the original script. And I wish we could at some point get to see that in some form, whether that's a comic book or audio play. I would love to see that realized.
Interesting. Yeah, no, there's all avenues for those sorts of, there's so many oddities. I'm like, can someone make a little animated film of that with stuff from all sorts of like Star Wars, things like that. Like give me an Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire animated.
Oh,
please.
Dude. Yeah, no, that would be amazing. No. Yeah.
Call it Legacy or Elseworlds or whatever. I'd like to see it realized, or try to weave it in with modern continuity. You could do it. Make it animated, so maybe it does, maybe it doesn't count. Who cares? Just it'd be interesting to see that pulled off. But stuff like this would be great too. There's other, like, Jodorowsky's Dune would be great to see animated. Superman Lives. Like, do these things. You have my dollars.
Yes, they would keep taking them.
Yes. But without further ado, let's get into this. Let's discuss this first episode, Escape from Tomorrow.
2 astronauts survive a crash landing on a planet where intelligent apes rule over humans. The men find that their own intelligence challenges the apes' superiority and puts their lives in danger.
All right, this one is directed by Don Weiss, written by Art Wallace. Joe Ruby and Howard Dimsdale will serve as story consultants on this series. It stars Roddy McDowell, Ron Harper, James Naughton, Royal Dano, Mark Leonard, Spock's dad, Woodrow Parfait, and Booth Coleman. So I want to get to like director Don Weiss. I like to run down who's in these things because a lot of these old space shows are old and some of these actors aren't prominent anymore. They may have been back then, or there's connections you can make throughout this seeing things. But Don Weiss, he started career in film in the early 1950s, moved on to TV where he'd spend most of his career. He did Casablanca, the TV show. And like, listen to this name, Jane Wyman Presents, Fireside Theater. He did The Thin Man television show, Andy Griffith Show, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. He did the episode Steel for The Twilight Zone in 1963.
Richard Matheson.
Did Patty Duke, Batman, The Virginian, Happy Days, Ironside, Kolchak, SWAT, Matt Helm, Beretta, Starsky and Hutch, MASH, Hawaii Five-0, Chips, TJ Hooker, Fantasy Island, Love Boat, Remington Steele. Listen to this. I just love it. I'm like MacGyver, Hill Street Blues, Simon. One of his final credits, Russell, Freddy's Nightmares.
That's a talk about a TV show I'd love to see actually officially released someday.
Oh yeah, it's getting. I hear it's getting close. They have it's on a streaming service now, so that's the next step. Is someone to be like
service.
It's a newer horror one. That was like their big thing was We Have Freddy's Nightmares. I can't remember.
That's amazing.
Shudder has competition now, so
okay.
That's what I realized. I'm like, oh, and they got Freddy's Nightmares. And I know there's a bootleg site that has legally been selling it. So something's got to be getting close to figuring it out there. Wallace, we know Roddy McDowell. We don't need to go over Roddy here. Everybody coming to this knows that. But Art Wallace, who wrote this, he does 2 episodes of this show, 2 episodes of Star Trek, Assignment Earth and Obsession. The Bill Cosby show, and here's the thing. He's one of the creators with Dan Curtis of Dark Shadows and wrote 65 episodes of that show. Pretty crazy. So they got some big guns here going at it. Like Dark Shadows is humongous. Like tell the kids, you don't realize Dark Shadows was it. Like that was a big deal. So and for television too. So you got a guy who created Dark Shadows coming over to Planet of the Apes. It's a big. Dark Shadows is still running in popularity at this time. Probably, I think. Can't remember, but
I think so. I think you're right.
Because it ran 68 to like the mid 70s. So Art Wallace, probably a hot name here. But I was like looking, I was like, Dark Shadows. He half created it. Oh, okay. Okay. Like Dan Curtis had the idea and he was brought in and those two fleshed it out. Dimsdale, who's story consultants, same position. He held that on $1 Million Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and he wrote National Velvet and Abbott and Costello Meet Captain Kidd and Abbott and Costello Meet Jekyll and Hyde. Also writing Zangiray Theater, My Three Sons, The Fugitive, Bonanza, The FBI, Gunsmoke, Quincy M.E., and then he takes a break and comes back in the late 80s and writes for Superboy. Yeah.
Yeah, Superboy.
Yes. The other story consultant, Ruby, he is the co-creator of Scooby-Doo. So
okay.
Yeah.
There's some credibility there too.
Yeah. And he was a big Hanna-Barbera guy editing Flintstones, Yogi Bear, Jetsons. He also did story supervision on Josie and the Pussycats and wrote for Space Ghost. So, but dude made Scooby-Doo. Like, this is talent. This is like, I mean, this show got canned after 14, but it wasn't like they weren't trying here. Our stars, Harper, he had a career in television, doing stuff like Land of the Lost, Remington Steele, 90210, Melrose Place, Boy Meets World, Two Guys, a Girl in a Pizza Place, West Wing. He was in Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor, and there's a cult classic movie called The Poughkeepsie Tapes he stars in. Naughton, this is early in his career, but he did episodes of Fall Guy. He'd be in Ally McBeal, Law and Order, Criminal Intent, Damages, Gossip Girl, Blacklist. He was on the new Sex and the City show, and Just Like That. Did The Birds 2. He was the star of that. First Wives Club, Devil Wears Prada. Got a pretty good career.
I just also saw that he was in Thriller with Boris Karloff as well.
Yeah,
as the host.
Yeah. Pretty big career. Coleman here, lots of TV. Geek stuff like Star Trek Voyager, Galactica in 1980, Gilligan's Island, Mission Impossible, My Three Sons. There's a lot of shows I'm noticing coming up between the two. We record these in blocks, as I've always noticed, but between the 2 episodes we're talking about here in a row, there's a lot of show semblance that comes with these. But he was in The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. But this is actually, while it's the first episode, it's the 3rd episode filmed in the first production block, premiering on September 13th, 1974. I always find it fascinating when they do these like lead off episodes, like down the line. Like I get it's weird. Like, shouldn't we warm up through this first episode? But I guess the idea is I want you to look like you've been in character in the first episode. So they always leave it. Yeah.
From production side of things, I agree with you that I think it's a matter of allowing the actors to be able to warm up to the characters and like really get a handle on what they're doing, so that by the time we're having that introduction, it's like the whole thing as far as with actors, even in theater, within that first 10 minutes, like if the audience doesn't connect with them, you completely lose them, my friend. So like I completely understand the logic from a producing standpoint of why they would do that.
Right, exactly. It just makes it. They did that with Davison for Doctor Who for his his early run. They shot later episodes before Castrovalva. This episode is our introduction. We have astronauts crash landing on what they'll find out is Earth in the future. But it's not like, I'll give it, this wasn't the same. This didn't feel like Charlton Heston again. It didn't feel like James Franciscus again. Like, this had its own thing. It has its own aesthetic, because in the original Planet of the Apes, all pets and stuff were dead or whatnot, but we have animals here because that's the thing that's going to happen.
With a dog.
Yes.
In the opening scene.
Right. Yeah. The child ape.
And Brandon, you're 100% dead on. Like, they, within the first 5-10 minutes, they set it up so that the astronauts learn from a book this time that this is Earth. And like, that's a complete departure from any other version we've seen as far as the astronauts landing, because that allows them to be able to dive in and really start playing in the world and like get into the meat and potatoes.
These guys, they are hopeful. They collect a piece of their ship before everything like happens. There's a lot of captivity in this episode. They first are picked up by an elder human of the planet who informs them of things and does not. I have to give the props to the writing that they really handle the communication and this elder man very well, where it could have been overlooked, but he's like, they're saying terms to him. He's like, I don't know what that means. And people are like, I don't understand you, where they could have shortcut and be like, oh yeah, blah, they could have shortcut things, but they play it accurate. And because for the time, for the 70s, I just put it on TV, like they wasn't there. There was a care, but there wasn't with things like some of the, like, just let it go things got through. But I really like their conversations with him and how that plays and how it plays with some of the apes as well, especially Galen. Galen's got a really good arc in this episode. Like, I really like what they did with him. He's very much a Zira Cornelius hybrid, but in his own way still. And you get to see him learn, change, grow, and you buy that he goes on this journey and leaves.
He makes his own decisions through the course of this opening script. And that was something I meant to say earlier, and we talked about before you started, is Galen and Alan are character names that actually Rod Serling did write in his original script. So like, they did borrow still elements going into the original like first episode that we have here that came from Rod Serling.
Yeah, definitely. And he doesn't believe, he questions, and he ends up killing one of his own to protect, because it's not in the name of like defending the humans, but defending what's right in the ape world. Like, he doesn't feel like what's happened, but in the same, his eyes are being open to, things being done to cover up truths or not allow for speculation or to learn. And he's always there to learn. He's always there to build. And when he sees the potential of that being taken away, that's where he wants to seek out whatever these humans are trying to find and learn more about his own world and where he came from, as well as them trying to figure it out as well.
And him learning that there is more to human beings than he has been taught. And he's like, he talks about that several times, as far as the fact that he only has known one way and has been taught one way. And so that they challenge his ideas and conceptions and forces him to think outside of the box.
Right. And they do bring the point like, what do you do with apes there? Like, you put them in cages? And they're like, yeah, we do. Like they have the realization as well. I don't think the human guys are as compelling as Galen at all.
No.
They're just kind of stand-ins almost. You could almost get away with just one of them, but I guess it's cheaper to have two human guys, and they can bounce off each other to talk human stuff.
I wondered about that as to why they departed from that formula with what they did with the film series, and I half wonder if that might have been a way for the audience to connect into the world, so that you could do kind of like with the doctor companion thing of asking questions.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they might need them to bounce off each other, because like the scene with the old man probably goes faster with two human guys that know what's going on,
right,
than just the one guy. So there's that potential as well. But yeah, they have a part of their ship that has potential to, if they can find this hopeful other group of people, maybe something can happen. That's our series nexus, is the journey to find that, because they blow up the ship because we don't want to use that prop. we don't have to bring that thing, lug that around for many episodes. But yeah, Apes too, covering stuff up. They do it like they have the gorilla, and the gorillas are always aggressive with things, but Dr. Zaius, or just Zaius in this, seems less of a monster in this and more reasonable. It does take a while to get them to think. He does have a in the original Planet of the Apes, they have that famous scene with the like, hear no evil, see no evil, say no evil, visually, but he has it within lines of dialogue with Galen almost, because Galen's asking him, he's avoiding, he's like, I never heard the question. He's like, I asked you a question, you answered. He goes, I never heard the question. And I'm like, that's that in dialogue right there. But he's not as ruthless so far in this one as he's was in the movies, as this is not the same Zaius, obviously, but
no, the classes are divided a little bit more as far as the chimpanzees, orangutans, and the gorillas. So we get to see that evolve a little bit more past what we have seen in the film series.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, Galen, yeah, he's his understudy, which don't know that would have been in the movies, because they would have had just an orangutan understudy and orangutan. But he's here. But Galen's very, he has Dr. Zaius, but aside from that, he's very much alone. And I don't know if that's just a lack of having cast or something like that, but it's just different dynamic than coming home to Zira, or having like Ricardo Montalban as his sidekick. As we've seen with McDowell in the past, he's very much, even when he's with the two humans, he kind of feels alone, outsider. For sure, even among the apes and among the humans, he feels a sole entity, which is an interesting thing to make him not like what he's played before.
That, and I don't want to jump ahead, but that does offer some opportunities, and we see that in the second episode a little bit, where he's able to talk to other apes in a way that he hasn't, like when he was in the film series.
Yeah, definitely. I have a random note that
randomness is good.
Ape with an eye patch is pretty rad. That's something we didn't see in the movies. I don't think we saw that in the movies, and I was like, that's a new ape. That's pretty cool. There wasn't much to the character other than he was a tattletale of, let's go down to the village, tell them what's going on. But yeah. This is a overall, it's all right episode. It's very much setting the stage thing and trying to fill an hour with it, when it's probably a good 30 minutes episode in here, but it's stretched to the 50.
They're trying to do a good job of, for anybody who's not seen the Planet of the Apes before, reintroducing the ideas of the world, so that like everything that we've already learned from how Taylor came in or the other astronauts, it's all encapsulated in this hour.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth of capturing, like, oh, we're stuck here, now we're stuck here. We'll go to the ship now, we'll go back later, we'll go to the ship. There's a lot of use of minimal sets, which will happen, and just like I said, a lot of stage setting. and it's to be expected, which is fine. But there's some good stuff to go in here, and a good, like, where's this gonna go type thing for the end of it. But do you have any more on it, Russell?
No, the only, and you mentioned something. The only thing that I remember is, as far as a stock shot that we got from the films, was a shot of the Ape City, because I don't know why they didn't actually just reuse that set when they were using somewhat many other sets from the films.
Right. Yeah,
maybe because the extras. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they were filming this in some sort of state park, from what my research showed me. That's what they were
interesting
going for. There's a couple, just a few stock shots, and I know some of the Planet of the Apes sets still exist. Like, there, you could visit. They're run down today, but like, they were just left the sets and they walked off. Like, so I think the Ape Village was still sort of there. I forget who it was. I think like somebody during one of the newer movies, they did a featurette or something, walk into where the old sets were, and
that's cool.
There was stuff still there. Because this is back before, recycling, tearing things down. We just left our trash wherever. We're in the desert. We're out in the woods. Who cares? No one's gonna find this. I have one question, and I'm gonna document this through, because it just piqued my curiosity, and I realized it. Was there any women in this episode? And if there was, did any speak?
I think we had just extras in the background. Because, whenever they saw the group of humans, I think we had some there. But yeah,
I was like, it's a dude heavy show.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay, because one of the strongest characters in the entire series was Zira, and no women here yet. We'll find one.
Not even Nova.
No, not even Nova. So yeah, we'll have to see. I was just an interesting thing I noticed. I was like, I don't think there's any women here, because I like to research who's in these, who's doing what, and there's nothing. So okay. Well, now it's time for us to take our stinking paws off this damn dirty episode. Russell, thank you as always for coming on here, talking Apes.
Thank you for having me.
And until next time, where can people keep up with you?
They can find me with WTIU.org or Indiana Public Media, and then Big Finish Productions. And if you actually just do a search with their search engines for my name, you'll be able to see all the productions that I've done with Big Finish there.
All right. #GoApe. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KHD. Written work at whysnoblue.com. There's more from the Brandon Peters Show this week, but from old space,
it's a madhouse!
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.